preface with saying that I don't, unfortunately, think that this is the best work I've ever put out. And that's because, as we are aware of what happened on Friday with Nick, I did not spend enough time doing this, and I literally just walked out of a meeting where I planned what we're gonna do for the kids this week, so we're doing it.
Yeah.
We are here, it's fine, life is life, and we're doing it.
Yeah.
One of the big things that I hear from everybody when it comes to doing project-based learning is that, like, there's no time for it. And if you do it, then you're just doing like a fluffy little project and you're not actually teaching the standards. So the PD that I wanted to put together was all about making it authentic without losing the rigor and using it to teach your standards. So this is kind of what we're gonna be looking at. We're gonna do a warm-up and a hook. I have a little bit of a mini lesson. We'll have some collaborative work time, a glows and grows session, so you'll have a reflection, and then some closure. And I put the notice that this is following what a typical PBL lesson could look like in your classroom. Crazy, I know. Yeah, so why this matters, we've seen it all. Students are disengaged a lot, we don't. They will literally do anything that they possibly can to not do the work. They will stare at a blank wall rather than do the thing that we've asked them to do, correct? And we also have so many standards to cover that I think a lot of us included revert to what's the fastest way to go through this. Teaching worksheet, teaching worksheet, teaching worksheet. And then we wonder why students are disengaged. I'm just kidding. It was you opening the Coke, that was what it was.
You don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, alright. PBL really does help to engage students, but like I said before, it is often misunderstood as something that is extra, that it's messy, that it's not meeting the standards, and that it's something that we don't need to actually do. But the fact of the matter is that authenticity and rigor go hand in hand. They're not opposites and they work together. The more rigorous it is, the more authentic it can become and the more meaningful it's going to be for those students as well. So the first thing we're gonna do is everyone's favorite, I think, fair share. I just want you to think about like what makes learning feel real for students. Like in your classroom specifically, when do you realize that students are actually engaged? Think about it for a second. Now talk to those around you. Yeah. Oh, hey, sorry, I forgot. Sorry.
I know it, I don't.
So this is something where it's still, I think it has to still be something that needs to relate.
Yes, you'd be right. It's like a
It's not people interpret. So I think there's something I have to think about it, and they can apply it to like prior knowledge, and not just prior knowledge, but also the way your text is about it, like change it into reality for them. And how they're discussing it, they actually get into those discussions.
But like when I said they're actually engaged students, when they're working together, and sometimes even like teach each other, or even like arguing with each other about
Yeah, because like there's like a way more specific
being able to
way to do it,
explain.
and there's not really.
explain to each
Yeah.
other.
I think when you take the big picture.
So that's why I like when we're working together.
Alright, so
And
each
So, right, like-
that chatted,
Yeah.
each group come up with one thing that you were like, that's appropriate, I love that. Tell me.
I wanna go first.
Let's hear it.
It's when they feel connected to the material.
Yes,
It's relevant to
it's
them.
relevant to them.
When there's a clear right and wrong answer.
Ooh, okay, so they don't want to.
Well, like for like English, for example,
We can
like
have a lot
it
in
becomes how many sentences do I need to write? What needs to be
Right.
included in each sentence?
So
like,
once they know specific things, boom, boom,
they
boom,
strategize, they don't try to inference.
boom. Okay,
They strategize the right answer.
did y'all say?
Well, we also said group work, but meaningful group work when they're actually collaborating. I call it academic talk. Not when they're chit-chatting, but when they're actually focused together on working on the material and giving each other feedback.
I like that.
Yeah.
A lot of peer interaction.
Yes. but
Relevant
meaningful.
peer interaction with clear objectives. I like that. Next question that goes with this are what are some of your hang-ups about introducing PBL into your classroom? If you have hang-ups for it, consider that. What would be a reason or two that you would not want to?
Cost of materials,
Cost of materials, that's huge.
contacts.
Yeah, I was gonna say community involvement, I know is a big one.
The time, taking the time to grade these things.
The time is crazy.
That's really
Yeah.
valid. It is valid.
Just, again, time, but especially for EOC C courses, getting through the content.
Yeah, we know I'm learning all about that this semester. It's working, it really is, there's just been a lot of shifting that had to be done in the process. No, I think that that's fair, I think that, you know, these are all clearly things that could stop someone from doing it, but I think the big one too, like you said, lack of time, when you start to recognize that you can't cover the standards with this, it doesn't take away the fact that you need contacts, it doesn't take away the fact that it's gonna take time to grade everything, but at least, you know, you have that piece covered, and you are covering those standards. Yeah, so everything you just named are common barriers, but there are also things that we can design around to make sure that PBL works in the classroom. I have heard these a lot, especially coming with, we all know I'm doing my doctorate right now, and like I've had to do a PBL lesson, and I've literally heard people say, okay, yeah, but that's fun, but are they actually learning anything? Real quote. Well, you're teaching about the real world, but are you actually covering what you're supposed to be covering in the class? Real quote. And also, I think a big thing is that it's like, oh, well, I have to teach it, and now they do a project. Whereas it should be, you're teaching it with the project, which is how you get some of that time back. So the truth of it all is this, and I designed that myself, I know, you're welcome. PBL is a vehicle for deeper standards mastery. This is how we get them to actually understand and engage with the content and take it with them after they leave our courses. So, PBL, you have to make sure you're doing it correctly, right, though? Like, there's a lot of steps, and the one that we were talking about in school, and the one that if you go into pblworks.com and things like that, this is what they discuss too, is this gold standard PBL, which at its core, it's about giving students something to figure out. They are solving a problem, they are analyzing real data, they're creating something meaningful. This is our way of making sure that learning is rigorous. You're giving them some sort of challenging problem or question. You're making sure that they have that sustained inquiry throughout and that it's authentic. They have some sort of voice and they have a choice in what they're learning. There's time to reflect, but there's also time to critique and revise, and that's the big one. There needs to be at least one period of them looking at it, getting critiques either from the teacher, from themselves, or from their peers, and then revising that material before they come out with some sort of public product. So I just said it needs to be rigorous. What does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean that we're thinking harder, it means that we're thinking deeper, right? So we're aligning with the standards, we are making sure that they are analyzing things, that they are reasoning about things, and they are applying those things that they're learning. So it's not just hard, but it's thinking heavy. This is the key idea, right? That authenticity and rigor strengthen each other, they go hand in hand. When you have real world context, like it's going to increase engagement. And as long as you're teaching those standards, you're making sure the depth of what you're teaching is also met. I also make this one. Authenticity and academic rigor together are meaningful and measurable learning. Yeah, it's beautiful, I know. So after this, I want to give just a little bit of an example of what I'm currently doing. I did a PBL lesson as my biology teacher, you know, at least that with the energy unit, where we talked about carbon footprint in the classrooms. And right now, I'm doing someone with genetics, not someone, I'm doing something with genetics. Genes, streets, and the people, nope, that's also wrong. Genes, streets, and the stories they tell is what that's called, there we go. So the driving question of this is, how do genetics and environment shape health outcomes? Our genetics unit is very heavy on the Punnett squares. That's the majority of our unit, right? You teach the vocab, you teach the Punnett squares, they look at pedigrees for a little bit, and then that's the end of it. So what I kind of did, because I took those standards, there's 3 of them. I'm not obviously going to read the standards to you, because that would be 15 minutes of it itself. But we have one that's just foundational genetics. If you break down LS 3-2, it's about variation and looking at environmental interactions, which usually we talk about when we do evolution. I was like, but that actually really ties in here, right? Like, how do genes interact with our environment? And then the last one's looking at data and probability and health patterns. So those are your Punnett squares, those are your pedigrees, just looking at those patterns. Essentially with this, we started with foundational knowledge. So we talked about what is genetics, who's Gregor Mendel, you know, our father of genetics for my English people back there that might not remember. We talked about that. We talked about what is a Punnett square, how do you do a normal Punnett square? But then we started looking at too, well, what does health look like? Is it always just genetic or is it always just environmental? And we started to see that crossover. They picked partners and they picked a condition, and these conditions were things like asthma or or sleep disorders, or type 2 diabetes, heart disease, things that do have both of those factors there. And then we looked at a case study that was specifically about type 2 diabetes, and it was talking about two people in a family that both had the precursors for it, but one got type 2 diabetes in life and one did not. So it was looking at the environment and their health and what they did on a day-to-day basis as well. After all that, this is where we're actually gonna be hitting into this week, because of course we had to just break that up with a nice long spring break. So I will spend a day reteaching their foundational knowledge, and then we're gonna go into how can we understand that data. And it's not just looking at pedigrees, but I'm gonna have them look at things like graphs and statistics and actually telling you what is this saying, not just what are we looking at, what is this telling you about what you see. That way they can start their research and start drafting their project, where they're going to come up with a public-facing product that could technically be in a clinic or something like that, that's telling them about the disorder, and it's kind of just a PSA to the public. And that's what we're working on right now. So all my standards are hit. Instead of this being taught in 10 days, I'm teaching it over 11 days. So I really did not add any more time to it, and I will still, well, I won't be on pace, but that's besides the point. I'm already not on pace, we don't talk about that. I also added my rubric. I'm not expecting you to read this, obviously, but I just wanted to show you that with the rubric that I did, I put all of those gold standard pieces. So, first of all, is the content accurate, of course, but like, did they do inquiry and research? Did they interpret the data? Did they communicate with the public product, right? Was there the critique and revision cycle? Did I see that the peer review was actually a good thing? Did they collaborate together and were they professional? And all those pieces kind of tie into how they'll be graded at the end. What made my specific thing rigorous here is number one, we're doing real world data analysis. Number two, within that case study, they are doing a CER, claim evidence reasoning, of why someone would get something versus someone else, even when they both have the same precursor for it. They're applying those genetic concepts to create their project, and then they're interpreting a real health condition. And I told them when they picked it that they had free reign to pick whatever they wanted, but if they knew somebody or they had the condition, that might be something that they wanted to go towards. So that it hits that relevance piece as well. All right, so this is what we're gonna do, and I wanna do groups of 2, except for my 3 in the back. So Valerie, I'm gonna have you with, I almost said Helen, nope, Heather, back there, you 2, 2, 2, 3. I don't want this to be anything crazy, I just want you to think and think about how you could do things. This might be fun actually, since we have 1 science and 2 English. I'm really curious if you can have a little bit of crossover there, I like that. You'll have a bio and earth together, so that's nice.
So this can be
Any assignment, I want you to think of a lesson that you currently do or that you want to do, or in your case, maybe make it something up, right? Ask yourself, what would the real world connection be? What would the standards be that you're hitting? I don't expect you to look up the standards currently. You do not need to go and dive into the standards, but just think about, oh, well, this is a concept that we're supposed to teach. What would the students be doing with the content throughout that lesson or unit? And then what's the product that you want this to be? Put my asterisks here, the PBL is an iterative process at its core, so it's just a rough draft, and you can use this to revise this and make it something that you can use in the future, but it doesn't have to be perfect today. If you notice on the back of your page 1, so page 2, it's back of page 1, yeah, page 2.
Back page 1.
That's it, there's a nice little planning document as well that you can take some notes and write that out there, okay? I'm gonna put 15 minutes on the clock, but if we're done before that, we can move on, but.
I'm fishing.
So,
Okay, let's talk about that, look at that. Okay, so,
That's about like for Romeo and Juliet, I was in CSI. So they knew they were gonna investigate Romeo and Juliet. So set up a whole crime scene at the end of the year. So they did that, and that's what I read. They walk around with clipboards and they analyze.
I think that's one that we should write down.
It's
What do you have? Okay, guys, great. Death of Romeo and Juliet.
do I just need to know where it is? I have the ones for energy and genetics memorized, so I had to work with them a lot. That's all I got.
Or they have Yeah.
That one, yeah, exactly.
What are some stereotypes online?
Crime scene.
Investigators. Naval crime scene.
Well,
It's a lot of preliminary analysis because they have to like, they have it set in the text and apply it to the individual.
Right.
I think we're doing the best is what your
Yeah,
type
we
of.
are. CSI crime scene.
Yeah.
They have to actually.
Okay. How do we make that happen? Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
I'm not. Thank you.
But also forensic science.
I love that. And Richard Duncan tells Taylor about it and teaches us forensics, so we should work on that. That's really fun. I love that. Oh, what a good crossover. I love it.
Yeah, I do. I use it all the time. Session days. C10.1 is about disadvantages and advantages of So R 1.1
South Carolina, yeah, let's have them do South Carolina, and they have to investigate. Once they determine who's going on trial, they have to, South Carolina's code law, figure out what exactly they're charging them with. So like if they want to charge Juliet's parents, they already see her into marriage, they look up like parent abuse and neglect.
Yeah, okay. So all of the research is boring. I'm trying to think. 6.1 is summarizing.
I'm just curious what camera we're talking about. Before I can try talking to you.
You're right, it's ridiculous.
A lot of the analysis is a letter.
We'll just do all the ARR ones. Yeah, they're gonna have to analyze everything about the text and decipher everything. Yeah, but that's all of it. Okay, great. Now, real world, we gotta let
Yes,
high
okay.
school culture.
Family structure and it's all like right.
So talk about like
Or
family structure.
Oh, yeah.
It does all that. They all know that, but yeah. Like natural selections of
Okay,
why are we
real world practice,
even
even though they have to, I mean, federally should, they're not really that way.
Well, then that would also tie into understanding complex.
Yeah, they have to have a requirement on their police report, how to use like technical, legitimate investigator terminology.
So, English one. But I told Hoffman I'll teach it, and I just don't want that to run. We totally have it. You probably do this, and there's totally no time, so I have to read it. Anyway. Yeah, I told her, if I didn't tell them, I don't mind teaching that. Yeah. So the tax product would have to be the investigation. The investigative report.
Yeah, so they have to show crime
So we're also now doing English as well. So I have to make a determine essay why they did.
Wouldn't that be?
Well, they first they analyze the crime scene and then they use.
Oh, yeah.
For it to determine who's bad, so they come up with like a
You say like theology at that point, or they require? Like what kind of things do they have to?
and then they have to after they investigate
This was at eight. Let's make up a hypothetical.
what all they all say and what happened, to determine who has at most fault, and then they.
So they're low-key arguing. Okay. So maybe the other thing that could be included is it does. Well, determining guilt, but
sociology.
Well, not like, not necessarily like our religious skills, it's just like more personal ideology, like why you're like, oh, I want this or fair.
No, they
So,
have to.
they already know we're making up in that capacity, so there's like learning like, oh, why wouldn't
You
I
know,
have
so.
that?
Talk to
Yes.
them.
There's
More
to
Okay, so that works. Or like,
So the students have.
or trial, argumentative trial.
Right, you can do going based off of the evidence and type of evidence you found, like, physically.
And answer the
I
question.
mean, that's probably something to figure out what your answer is gonna look like.
Yeah.
You know, what
I think,
but also then
no,
you just later.
Defendant.
Like on trial.
The name is
it's not, that, he is defended.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So they have to, so like what they would do is they would all their stuff after the crime scene and then they would determine, okay, out of this suspect, let's look at the test. What role did they really play? And yeah, he did that, because that only went through because this person did this. And so then they determine who they're putting on trial and they have to argue why that person is guilty and what they're gonna be charged with. And then they have to also come up with their, like, what are, what is their sentencing, are they going to prison? Like, what would
Did is I actually.
and then that's how it is.
And then you kind of based off what they're gonna sentence them, but it's like, so already set in place.
Yeah, they had to look up exactly South Carolina state law.
So they can't just be like death penalty for all. Cause they would, we know they would.
So they based it off of South Carolina law.
I wanna teach this, I'm upset that I can't teach this.
I always set it up, heck yeah, I always set it up in the overall library as in like body outlines of Romeo and Juliet
Swear. To do like escape room kind of thing.
Oh my god, have like little outward, like little vials also in front of like and those were like laying out and had like daggers like stapled on them and
I love
it was so
that.
much fun.
Was this like before they read it, or like after?
No, I told them leading into it, this is what you're gonna be able to do, so it was like it was a project learning.
Yeah.
And I told them when I did English and honors in 8th grade, every quarter, we did a different thing. And we always ended in some big project.
I love that.
And so they knew leading into this is what we're gonna end up doing. And
Yeah.
and she said they got into their CSI, like investigative teams, and they put boards and they had to work. I like crime scene tape around it, and so I gave them like 7 hours time. It's your team's turn to go investigate the crime scene, and there's 15 minutes.
Well, I would say so.
That's so fun. I love that, yeah. I love it. I always said, I mean, I'm lucky I teach science, but I really wish I taught English because there's so many really fun projects that you
There
can do.
are,
Like,
like, when I taught English 3 reread the Crucible one, because it's about like, so do I, about like corrupt government, I have them do a Declaration of Independence project where they rewrite the Declaration of Independence in like modern day slang, and then like apply it to like what are part, because the Crucible essentially happened before the Declaration of Independence.
Right, 15,
So,
but-
1692.
16, yeah.
And then, well, it's based in 1692, it wasn't written.
It was written in the 1850s.
So they compare the Declaration of Independence we have now to like how they acted back then, and they really like it.
Yeah, I love that.
I am finding it more challenging to project starting in high school than I didn't, because like, I had
They,
to
some of them
start
fall
here.
behind. That's the other layer, is if you do it independently, they also like, like you take their
Well, I will tell you truthfully that the big issue that I have is the pushback of, well, you're not gonna be in peace.
Right.
I was like, you're right.
And I do a lot of projects, I don't, the only time I would take as a DC, I don't give them testing quizzes like that unless they make me absolutely.
Yeah, I said, yeah, you're right, I am gonna be up peace, but I am still gonna need it. It's our goal, and I'm hitting my DCAs in our DCA target, so.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter.
Right, that was the biggest pushback that I got from it, and I told you I heard from someone specifically saying to me that, well, are you actually teaching what needs to be taught? And I was like, yes, with this project, you know? So getting everybody on board with that is really important. That would be another fun PD to do, like, let me show you that this does actually work.
So it's just like really fun, when you start to just like individual teacher-based.
That's why we really like design, or not design, PDs did at AR, you got to pick them, and like, it wasn't like boring.
How long did you This is year 5, I really had to think.
I'm trying to remember, I know, this is year 8 for me, and my first, I think, like,
Yes, they left it, or they stopped it. They did have a feature, and then they started that because of COVID. And it was like the year before COVID, and then COVID the year after, because when I started, we were doing learning by Zoom.
They were trying to do communication and communication over COVID.
Right, and I missed that.
That was one of the things on the teacher one that we said that
And I'll bring that, yeah, so hopefully.
So I like it a lot more.
Well, you have some autonomy on what you're learning, you're not being forced that.
And that's the things we learn every single time, yeah.
So for this, I put an analysis of text, determine guilt, research, Google roving, take all, analyze, and summary, take based on text, argue, defend, conclusion, and group communication.
There's so much going into it.
Pictures of their organisms, but, and I don't think you can do this to
So you guys can read that, there's a lot of planning, I'm just checking some of the information.
Oh my gosh, informational section
So
on
if you were in like a
Because
final
no,
year
this could turn into, this could turn into a real life
how
trial.
that is.
Like,
I've done that, I haven't heard from them every year, but it's always fun to do like a mock trial. I did a mock trial a while ago.
I lost my
Topic is so fast. But you know what, I go back to a presentation.
Like determine if that trial, if he was, insane, or if he was like,
But we did a big mock trial, and it was cool, they took us to the courthouse. Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's not just like random trees.
I look at the weather.
Cancer is, there's like cancer is like.
You get to share.
And you get to call for,
And you sound way more serious.
like different sections, so they also have like fighters order that easily.
Listen, I
And
just
then
read
they
them
like
so
a free
much.
square, like.
Well, it's not even that, it's like also when we were at CSU,
I love that.
Loki had
Yeah,
know
they
this,
do.
like Dr. Shepherd did not know it, she was like, yeah, you need to know these, like, by
I guess
heart.
that's fair,
It
cause
would be like a student sheet for like finding,
We're all.
for finding and working and
Quite
that.
stupid. Well, like, you just have like one set of standards for like science.
So they break it up into, so ELA standards, we have kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. But then in the book, it just says English 1, English 2, English 3.
Okay, so it's broken up by.
Yeah, and then it's broken up by reading standards, research standards, communication, and writing standards.
but it's built on, so like at the top, they like there's just over a video, it's different like words, and then they'll get like they add stuff, so like every year you're adding more, but you should also be.
Like they build on top of each other, so like for example, like say, for example, like English 3 standard will say analyze, but then English 4 standard will say analyze and explain. Like there's like another step, they're only different by a couple, yeah, there's only a couple differences in
So it's like the same essentially, but you're just repeating what we're saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's how it's supposed to be. Because they're all the exact same, like you could look at English 1 and English 2 right next to each other, there's a difference in a couple of words. Like that's it.
Like they just add.
Well, the only thing like is that
Yeah.
I always wondered that, I never looked.
But it's so confusing though, because like then when I think about it, it's like the ones for like the C 1.1, 2.1, 3.1, where it's like I can write narratively, I can write informatively, I can write argumentatively. None of those make any sense. Now when I figure it out, I see, but
I never like learned about those.
no, how that
What it is, I had to take
Yeah.
four days like
Yeah.
that, and each one was like mostly on pace.
Like,
Just
Oh,
trying to figure that
so
out.
bio, like, what is their bio?
Like find an organism with this biome.
Cell structure
Yeah.
and function.
So this bio or environment.
I would ask you a
So
question.
bio is like
Oh, we kind of did, yeah, it's kind of.
I don't know what
or
Maybe it's like
Science.
science.
Yeah,
Science.
because we talk about mitochondria, but then rise and this function.
Yeah.
Like, no combine, no carbs, it's really like ties to that as well.
No.
deprived ourselves.
Find an animal that would benefit from like specific.
Ding, ding,
type of
ding, ding,
mutation.
ding.
Yeah.
Even though I turned on the sound, I never actually turned on my computer sound, so. Yeah,
So, where does it fall?
yeah. Alright, so we are going to be sharing this. You're gonna get a 60 seconds to give me like a little rundown. If it is over 60, I'm not actually sitting here timing, I just don't want 17-minute long discussions about what your plan is. But just tell me what you just said, right? What's the topic? Where are you connecting to the real world? What are the standards? And if you don't know the specific standards, just the gist of like what that topic is that you're teaching. What are students doing with the content and what is the product? While we're doing this, you'll notice that you have a glow and grow feedback form. This is a huge thing that I do when I do any projects with my class, and this is kind of like how we start our whole peer review is they'll have other questions they have to answer too, but write a glow. What's one thing that you're like, yep, that would definitely work, or that's really good. And what's a grow? Like maybe you could consider this or do something different. So while the groups are presenting, you are each being assigned a group to look at. So when my three in the back go, Helen and Taylor, you're going to give them a glow and grow. Dylan and Rebecca are gonna get their glow and grows from Grace and Paula. I'm gonna say Grace and Paige. Dylan and Rebecca, you're gonna do Heather and Valerie. Heather and Valerie, you're gonna do Grace and Paula. And then my three in the back, you're gonna do Helen and Taylor.
So,
Is that a problem? Do you not like that?
no, I do have a question though.
Yes.
Do they get butthurt when they see how big the growth section is?
Well, there's more questions I usually ask.
okay.
Like they have to actually say like, what was their
I gotcha.
thing? What is that? And I took that off because we don't need all that.
Oh, of course, I was just wondering if they were like really butthurt.
That would be really crazy if I was like, all right, guys, fill out the grow section
Yeah.
completely with the grows.
That's
Yeah,
what
no,
I was wondering, like, hey,
no,
we
no.
suck that bad?
No. Okay, so yeah, so we'll start up here and we'll just kind of like go around, snake it through. So as they're going, I already forgot. As you guys are going,
We would be judged by H and V.
yes.
That's us, we got
Okay,
you.
thanks.
Valerie.
Great. 60 seconds. Go.
Oh, you do want us to stand up?
Pitch!
You don't have to stand up. You can just-
Okay, well, we are covering the lesson or unit, evolution and ecology, and we're gonna do that by, take it away, I'll do the next part.
So we are going to tie this into natural selection specifically, and how animals have these variations and adaptations to survive in very particular ecosystems. What gives them higher fitness? They can go ahead, research actual, well, it's the project component of this is that they will kind of roll a die, get some parameters for a particular ecosystem. And they can use those to design their own ecosystem, but first what they can do is go kind of research some actual organisms that live in this particular environment with these particular adaptations. Use that to kind of create their own organism based on real organisms. And then what will happen is they are given a disaster based on some sort of real world scenario.
Oil
Ship and
spill.
oil spill.
Drought, flooding, disease.
Okay, you go. You take it from here.
Okay.
Okay, I talked a lot. You take it.
So after they design their organism, they are given a disaster, like we just named, that's connection to the real world, and also using real world animals for like reference, like why would it have this adaptation, where did you pull that from? And the student product, or like what are students doing with the content, not only are they designing the organism and their environment, they're creating their food chain as well, and then problem solving to figure out what are useful adaptations, what is that word, useful mutations?
Beneficial
Beneficial
mutations
mutations.
that might give them that variation to survive this natural disaster, this climate change event, whereas other organisms in their population would die off. And then, of course, tying it into natural selection and the evolution component, then how are offspring going to change compared to the previous generation? And then gallery walk or presentations, after, of course, their group, they consulted with another group that can help give them feedback on this.
I love that. It's like the beginning of our ecology project and then the Charles Darwin game. And you just like put them together, and I love that. And we need to do this. Like keep that's the thing, we need to do that.
We actually did it in
We need to do
bio
that.
and environmental science,
Yeah.
slightly different, like I think
Yeah.
hers is more extensive, and I
We
wish
need
I
to
would
do
have done that.
For sure. I love that. Okay. Yay. We're sneaking through. That means that Dylan and Rebecca are next. So, wait, no, Dylan and Rebecca are next. So you two are giving feedback to Dylan and Rebecca.
Got it.
Hi, we're Dylan and Rebecca.
Hey.
Hi. So we did ecology as well. And so the standards are the ecology ones, I don't know, there's numbers. with them.
Right.
So our real world connections, they're gonna pick an endangered species and they're gonna come up with an action plan to help maintain the species as well as the local economy and culture of that area. So they'll have to pick an area where it's found, and we know that most of those spots are gonna be the hot spots for biodiversity, so we have a lot of tropical rainforest. And we know with those areas, they're usually poor spots, and the reason they're tearing away the tropical rainforest is because they need more space and more money, and so we're trying to find ways that they can come up with that. One of the ones we also jumped to is, like here, we have the wetlands that are getting like really destroyed, and so finding ways and different species that are found there. Talk about the task.
Okay, so the task is gonna be that at first they have to research the endangered species, and get all of the information about it, and so they will present that in, whatever summary you should do, like postage stamp for that actually. And then they have to research the ecosystem and all of the different aspects of that, but then also talk about how, or why is the endangered species endangered? And most of the time, like you said, it is because they're tearing it down for either cropland, farmland, or selling the wood, something like that, so it's, they have to, if they're gonna save it, we're gonna say, hey, you can't do this. Then they have to present another way that that area can make money, so the economic part. But also they have to research the culture, and so they have to preserve that area's culture with it as well. So you can't just go in our, you know, rich ways and first world ways and say, we're gonna do it this way because we said so, but they have to be sensitive to that as well. So it's a biodiversity protection plan, that they have to present with it, and then with that umbrella species, they have to explain how it'll protect everything there and all of the other organisms there. They also have to, one thing I make my students do is that they have to write laws that will cover like how it's to protect the species or protect the area. And they can't just be, you cannot hunt this.
Yeah.
Like it has to be something that's actually like,
So it has to be feasible.
yeah, feasible, realistic, and enforceable. So how is it gonna be enforced? So that's all part of that action plan that they have to do. But I think the biggest part for that is, all right, if you're gonna tell them you can't make money doing this, how are they now going to feed their families or?
I really like that. Thanks. Good, really good. Yay. Okay, Helen and Taylor now, and Kirsty, Amber, and, who's called you Maddie, hello? Mia, are going to do your closing drugs. Go ahead.
Okay, so ours was also in ecology, but more so focusing on human impacts and solutions. So we were calling it Our Community, Our Responsibility. So we have the standards BLS 2-7 and 2-1, and then all SEPs would be covered. So real world connection, they would be finding an environmental issue in their community or in their neighborhood. So definitely local, or maybe even if it's not like where they live, but just like a spot that they visit within South Carolina. The other thing that we want them to do is when they go through and like design their solution, we want them to pitch it to the school improvement plan or like the environmental club, so that there's some, I don't know,
Community connection.
yes, that can actually like implement like the best solution or initiatives that the students create from the class.
So for the student task, things we'll have to do, they'll have to choose, like you said, one issue, in the community or neighborhood or of the sort, come up with a plausible solution to that, create some kind of prototype to like kind of help with solving it, and then present, their solution. And one other thing with this is that it also pulls in the foundational knowledge from earlier lessons, so, cause this is gonna be kind of towards the end of the unit with the human impacts, so they have to pull from everything else in ecology. And how they show their thinking is they're using research and field investigation at school and at home, looking at data analysis, creating something, and also, they're gonna tie in how do they think whatever their solution is going to impact, like the biotic factors in their area.
I love that.
I think it's also something that you can do, like, the project doesn't need to be at the end, because you can like do it throughout.
Yeah,
I
try
feel
it
like that's
throughout.
hard to do during those foundational classes, about any biotic, look at your spot and
Right.
see its impact.
I love that. I love it a lot. I also like too that you brought up the fact about having that community input, because that is a huge portion of PBL. This piece of this PD could be like a 10-part series, if we're being honest, where we start with what is PBL, right? And that's like the big thing, is that to do a correct project or problem-based learning activity, you really should be having some sort of community buy-in. I think that's the part that's the most difficult, right, is finding those connections to make it work. But I like the fact that you even brought up environmental club, because that's somebody that we have here at the school that can do that.
Is it you?
Are you environmental club now?
She is.
Oh, I thought it was still just you. That's so funny. I didn't realize it was you. Oh, that's hilarious. Okay. Okay, so you two, and you are gonna have Dylan and Rebecca do your closing grows. Okay. I don't know why I can't get my system straight in my head, but your turn. Go ahead.
So we're going to ask our students, before we intro the units on evolution and biology, should humans be involved in animal or species conservation? Are we playing God at that point, and are we doing harm or help? And then letting the students produce an essay for or against that thought. I'll let you take over.
Yeah, so then that introduces cross-curricular, because then not only are we introducing science standards, but we're also getting into English standards as well to come up with a persuasive argumentative essay where they have to cite sources, look up information. We were gonna pull in a zoo conservationist to talk to the students about conservation, and then they would present their findings to the conservationist as well.
Our local tie-in, we've got the South Carolina Aquarium, who focuses a great deal on marine conservation. And so we can see their efforts in action, and then have the students make determinations on if that's a positive or negative thing for their community, and they can see it in real time.
As for student tasks and products, or how does students show thinking? So again, they have to show their thinking by finding relevant sources, or even citing the sources that we had the conservationist speak to them. There will be regular checkpoints and check-ins to see if they are making those connections and doing the learning, so that we are actually getting a product at the end. And again, there isn't really any right or wrong answer to this, so they are showing their learning in that aspect. I don't know, did I cover that?
Yeah, and then in order to make sure we're hitting the standards, our project will be rubric-based, and so to hit those standards where the rubric is providing an understanding or acknowledgement that they've mastered the content of those standards. So however they choose to show that, it's presented. And then to make sure that we're getting, good content, we offer many lessons and have it structured, and the rubric will provide timed check-ins. That'll be our plan.
I love it. It's great. The mini check-ins and the checkpoints, I found out from doing mine, were very essential, right? I'm very glad that I had that knowledge before I went in to do that, so yes, great job. Already crossed it off. Okay, so our last group, and Helen and Taylor, you were going to do their closing rows.
So we did a little English science mashup here, but when I did English 1 honors at the middle school level, when we did Romeo and Juliet, we always ended it in a big project called CSI Verona, where they had to investigate the tragedy and where the tragedy took place, and kind of put together a crime scene analysis, and then determine based off of their crime scene report, a list of suspects, and then who was the person that is most guilty of causing the tragedy, and then kind of go through a trial type thing. So they would investigate the death of Romeo and Juliet. The standards would be all of the applications of reading.
If you don't know, our standards are split up into 3, so there's applications of reading, there's research, and then there's writing and communication.
Okay.
So all of the reading ones where they analyze, because they'd read it first, so they have to understand family structure and things like that for that time, and then just working with a group, communicating standards, and then they'd be writing argumentatively at a certain point, so then the argumentative standards, and then they'd look at relationships, true crime, state laws, the legal system, and kind of practice the complex verbiage of those types of documents. And then they would do a crime scene report, a list of suspects. We would do a trial at the end where they would essentially present their argumentative writing just back and forth, like a trial setup. And then they'd have to turn in their crime scene notes, their argumentative piece, their state laws that they used, and then their determination of guilt based on the text.
So it's real world because they have to use actual like legal system verbiage, they have to look and apply it with the actual South Carolina state law, cause like we said, they would be trying to give everybody like the death penalty or something. So they had to come up with this, like a sentencing and an actual, like prosecution based off of the laws in our state.
I love that. That's so fun. I wish we had time to do more like of that and really, really hit. Like, not just adding English into it, but being like, if you taught forensics at the same time and being like, okay, so we're doing this at the same time. I know that there's ways to do that, but I wish we had more time to do that. I love it. That's great. So fun. Okay. I'm gonna ask you guys, what do you think is best? Should we just like give blows and grows at the very, very end, or do you wanna just like pass them to them now, or what? You want me to pass them now? At the end? Okay. While we're walking out, you can pass around.
I don't know science, so
That's okay.
Heather and Taylor, you're SOL with your grows,
Yeah,
cause I don't know science.
Y'all may look at my grow and be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
So the last thing that I wanna touch on today is like where you are at currently with not just like if you're using PBL, but like what are your thinkings about PBL? So the last part of your packet, page 3, is the PBL self-reflection tool. Where am I now? I want you to think of a recent lesson that you've taught or you plan to teach and reflect honestly about like how does it align or how did it align with those key elements of project-based learning. I gave you a scale for instance, first one says, I incorporate a challenging problem or driving question. And you'll say, did I do it or not? You know, give yourself 1 through 5. And then talk about what is one glow in your current project leading PBL, what's one area to grow in, and what is one actionable step you can take to make this lesson more aligned with PBL. I'll give you a few minutes to do that.
Sorry. I did not mean to be so verbal in my discussing myself.
It's just a reflection, you know, it's a starting point. That's all.
I'm just like,
That's a starting point.
I'm like, what's the glow? I actually know what these are.
That is a glow. I think that's a great glow.
No, what's my glow? Actually do it.
It's difficult to find the time to plan it and prep it.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
a lot of work.
Like, there is so much that goes into it. The amount of time that I put into those, oh, sorry. The amount of time I put into those freaking lessons. It's just a lot of back end. Like, it seems so complicated with the kids, but it's
It's
not.
not. You have to make sure you know everything and have everything prepped and then get it.
Everything prepped, know who to talk to, where they're going, and again, have those check-ins, so whatever they know the kids are doing.
Like again, I would love to get back to PBL, but it's so heavy. And I think
That's
too,
why I
like,
came back, so like, yeah, I think I really, refresh my memory.
right. And I think the thing to remember too is like what you and I are talking about are like extensive PBL products, and they should be done maybe 1 or 2 a year, but you can still just do the project-based learning with just a lesson. So you might not hit all 7 things, but at least they are still like getting at least one of those, right? They have student choice, they're answering a question, they're doing this.
There was like a lot of things like history. I remember history being very challenged
Yeah.
to come up with, like, because again, history is something that's already happened. So how do you come up with a project-based learning thing about certain things that have happened, at least with some of their standards? Like, it was just very hard for me to work around that. Like, I'm certified in middle school, so I was doing social studies and science.
Right.
The other guy had English and math, but,
Which is weird.
yeah, I'm not
Like, they're weird.
but yeah, so,
Super weird.
I mean, you would always encourage those curriculars, but yeah, I really struggle with history.
Fair. It's not your content area, but it's
I tried, oh my gosh, I got really
I would like that more, I would personally try to make standards that are so
connections, like,
specific.
I had to teach the
Because
same
I
in witch trials,
think
trying to make
So
connections
let
in
them
modern
direct
culture.
all the same
It was in a very red
didn't speak for me.
That was not good.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I didn't have so many.
Yeah, like kids don't make historical connections.
And then what's even crazier though, like a science one, you can break up.
So, yeah,
Like, you
so
can
that's
do one
fine.
standard, and
Yeah,
that
it
one
did follow
standard
me
can
into
do
the
like
classroom.
30
It-
to 40 different objectives.
Yeah.
Because it's so
That's what I
much
worry
to
about, is when you ask these questions that don't have
It's
a
like
right
There's
answer.
some like,
That's the
the ones for the
struggle with
specific types of writing,
PBL,
they
at
have
least when
like
it comes to like
one, I
categorizing things
make
like
sure I hit every little
chemistry and
subsection. I
those
put the
things.
whole
It's like
standard up
non-standard,
there.
and then we'll say A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yeah, and have like a bunch of like specifics, and I'm like, you're crazy, I'm just gonna put the whole thing, I hit all of them.
No, ours would be like, hey,
I'll show you
interpret
I have them printed out, I'll show them to you. It's ridiculous, they're pages long.
PBL.
I feel like it totally should, the more stimulating it gets, the more the kids are brought in. The more they sit hard.
It's a good thing where you can sit on one standard for a long time.
I see
but, like,
most of us, and if you're still writing, please keep writing, I don't wanna stop you, but I see that most of us are done writing, so I just had two more things that I wanted to point out. Number one, this packet is yours, right? So on the front page, there's resources. These two books, the one was actually one of my textbooks for one of my PBL classes, but honestly, that book saved me in creating a PBL lesson. So the second one, setting the standard for project-based learning, I really highly recommend. It was written by the people who do the PBL Works website, which I also highly recommend. They have lessons and blogs and all these videos. They have everything you can need to start this. But the first one, The Power of Making Thinking Visible, was one that I actually just like randomly bought at Barnes & Noble one day when I was feeling like I wanted to be a good teacher, I guess that day. But seriously, like that changed my way of like thinking, like how can I get kids to show me that they are thinking? And so you actually see it. It is a visible way of like, showing them thinking. So highly recommend. And my last little key takeaway is this. PBL is iterative. This is a starting point. It's obviously not a final product. If you're starting to do small shifts now in your classroom, it can lead to powerful changes and make sure that we are engaging our students and making sure that they are learning to the best of their abilities.